A decision by Donald Trump to urge ICE agents to change where they snatch up unsuspecting immigrants was a direct rebuke to White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller. That is the opinion of former Washington Post columnist Jennifer Rubin as she spoke to MSNBC's Ali Velshi on Sunday morning. Rubin, who also serves as a political analyst for MSNBC, was asked by the host about Trump's backtrack on immigrant enforcement when he pressed the agency to suspend raids on hotels, farms, meatpacking plants, and restaurants, as Axios is reporting. Attributing the change of heart by the Trump administration to donor pressure, Rubin explained, all of the ag interests and the hotel owners and Trump himself, who rely on undocumented immigrants, don't like this. You know, who could have predicted that this would unravel the economy, she asked sarcastically. Who could have predicted that this would be disruptive to American society and the economy? Well, all of us have. And this is really a slap in the face to Stephen Miller and those people who thought that somehow they were going to deport 11 million people. It is never going to happen, she predicted. Watch this now.
The Indivisible Project was one of the main organizers of the No Kings Day protests that we saw across the country yesterday. Greenberg also wrote, "We are indivisible, a blueprint for democracy after Trump." Also joining us, Jennifer Rubin, co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Contrarian and MSNBC political analyst. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us. Leah, I have to say, there's something to celebrate about yesterday. Americans answered the call. They realized that only they will stop this. And so while I was here at this parade in D.C., across the country, people were going out and peacefully protesting, as is their right.
That's absolutely right. That is what we have seen across the board, is that huge numbers of people know that what is happening is wrong. They know that Donald Trump is overreaching dramatically, that he is terrorizing our communities, he's breaking the law, that he's enriching himself while he steals from us. And they showed up, and they showed up to deliver that message peacefully and with a lot of care and love for each other.
Jen, let's talk about this. We have discussed over the past couple weeks and months that there is value to these protests. They do influence what's going on. We're seeing it in polls. We're seeing it in the fact that people who otherwise didn't think of themselves either as protesters or being civically involved are now saying there is a role for me here.
Absolutely. There is this misnomer that somehow Trump is winning, that Democrats should be fearful or on defense when they send National Guard troops and the Marines into Los Angeles. This is false. What we saw was a repudiation not only of Trump, but of this myth that somehow he is the majority, he is the people. In fact, as you say, Ali, in polls, in numbers, everything tells us he is not winning the day. Look at the polls on the big ugly bill, hugely underwater. Look at his polls on immigration, underwater. And I think they underestimate the American people tremendously. They are disciplined, they are patriotic, they are enthusiastic. And I have to give hats off to Leah and Ezra and all of the organizers. What they pulled off yesterday was nothing short of stunning. They will be too modest and give credit to too many people, but the two of them really were masterful. This is going to be one for the ages when we talk about the history of political activism.
I agree, Leah, and congratulations, and thank you, more than congratulations. But tell me where this leads. What happens? One of the things that Jen and I have been talking about a lot is that we thought at the beginning of this administration that that sort of being courageous, it was hard. People were not sure what was going on. We're now seeing it being contagious, right? People are looking at other people being courageous, and they're going out themselves and saying, I'm in community, I can do that.
That's absolutely right. And that was a core part of why we called for the No Kings protest, together with, I have to insist, an incredible coalition of fellow partners and organizations. And, the idea was Donald Trump wants you to think that his consolidation of power is inevitable, that there is nothing that you can do. And that That idea is governing a lot of people's actions right now. People are making decisions in law firms and in higher education institutions and in government based on whether they think Donald Trump is going to successfully become a dictator. And what we showed yesterday is that his support, his strength is far more brittle than people think, that there is power everywhere else in the country that is rising up to oppose him. So while he tries to have his little theatrics in D.C., we collectively are leaning into our power everywhere else. Now, the challenge for us is going to be, we got to make sure that everybody who is marching, the people who came out yesterday, that they are plugged into local organizing homes, that we're building that power, right? Because a march is a narrative intervention, but it is also a recruitment drive. It is a chance to pull more people into action so that we get stronger and we build our muscles for collective action for the months to come.
Jen, the New York Times reported yesterday that ICE has been told to scale back and ease up operations on farms and against hospitality workers, which seems to signal that as out of control as this administration has been, and as you point out, as unpopular on the things that they're actually doing about immigration they seem to be responding to what appears to be public pressure, not necessarily court pressure.
Maybe donor pressure. All of the ag interests and the hotel owners and Trump himself who rely on undocumented immigrants don't like this. You know, who could have predicted that this would unravel the economy? Who could have predicted that this would be disruptive to American society and the economy? Well, all of us have. And this is really a slap in the face to Stephen Miller and those people who thought they're somehow going to deport 11 million people. It is never going to happen. And just to follow up on something that Leah said that is so important, look at what's happening to those law firms that caved in. Partners are fleeing. Young associates don't want to work for them. Look at the universities that have caved. People do not want to go to school, do not want to work for them. And look at those who have stood up, like Harvard. They are getting kudos. When you stand firm, you send a message to other people. When you collapse, first of all, you don't stop the aggression. You don't stop the extortion. You just encourage it. So you have to draw the line, and drawing it peacefully, drawing it joyfully, and with music, with fun, with humor is just tremendous. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, take a look at some of the proceedings from Philadelphia yesterday. Leah was there, Ezra was there, Jamie Raskin gave one of his rip-roaring speeches that was just so inspirational. That's really the true spirit of America.
Leah, I covered the D.C. parade yesterday for 6 hours of my life that I'm never getting back. But let's just talk about that for a second. I mean, it was remarkable to honor the Army and to see the Army and to see these military people. Probably did cost about $50 million to do that in a government that's all about waste and firing people. Do you think it had anything close to the desired effect?
Well, look, I think you only had to look at Donald Trump's face and the face of his cabinet, who were sitting there looking like they'd like to be somewhere else, to see that it did not have the effect that Donald Trump intended. And again, you know, part of the tragedy here is that he has been co-opting the Army and pushing people into doing something that is very obviously for his personal glorification. And so I think what we can safely say is that he did not achieve the projection of strength that he was looking for out of this moment. He wanted to look like a strong man who was in control. What he looked like was a guy throwing himself a birthday party that nobody came to with your taxpayer dollars, while telling you that there's no money for Medicaid, for Social Security, for veteran services.
Thank you to both of you. Appreciate it. Leah Greenberg is the co-founder and co-executive director of the Indivisible Project, the author of We Are Indivisible, a blueprint for democracy after Trump. Jennifer Rubin is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Contrarian and an MSNBC political analyst.
And that's Alan talking today.
In front of Chicago doors, he just pretty much stood his he had really do the whole time.